Make sure you're holding that to the front. Okay.
Hello. Welcome to another podcast. My buddy Jake's here.
Take two.
And yeah, take two. We're going to have some bloopers, maybe where the end card goes. But we just saw the movie. The Thing. And I had fun with it. Like overall, what would you say about the movie? Like, did you enjoy it?
Yeah, I liked it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm always a little hesitant watching movies because I'm not the biggest movie fan. But
yeah,
I enjoyed this. I'm always nervous when I see like the timer. It's like 2 hours. Okay.
Yeah, but which is funny because you'll watch the Lord of the Rings marathon.
Yeah, but I know I like those.
Yeah, that's true. You're going back
to it often.
Yeah. So we're gonna start with our favorite explosions from the movie. My favorite explosion is definitely when the Thing gets a guy's running out who's on fire, and McCarty. Is it McCarty? It's McCarty, right?
Yeah.
McCarty throws a piece of dynamite and blows up the body. I just thought it was like really visceral and awesome and cool, the amount of explosions they had. But like, what's your favorite? What do you say?
I think the first helicopter getting blown up. Kids.
Oh yeah, there's so much chaos too at the beginning. I like the opening shots whenever they're trying to shoot a dog because there's no like we don't have
what
any
in the world is going on.
Yeah, we don't have any context yet. We don't know that that's like an alien who's going to destroy people. Grenades?
I mean, we know, but I mean,
well, yeah, but we were going into it with the knowledge of the movie. Like if you would have seen that when
60 years ago.
60 years ago.
No, 40
not
years
60,
ago.
40.
Sorry.
Yeah, if you would have seen it 40 years ago, isn't that crazy?
40 years old.
That the 1940 was that long ago, or 1980.
1983. You said
82. It was 82.
82. Okay.
Yeah, but the movie opens with what we're talking about. The movie opens with a dog running across basically Antarctica and were they Finnish or were they Swedish?
Norwegian.
They were Norwegians who were trying to shoot the dog from the helicopter. We're given no context until later on. You said you liked the what is it called? You liked the practical effects that were done at the Swedes camp.
Yeah, that was my favorite picture representation of the alien was like that splitting face that they found at the camp. I think it was like the most gruesome that really sticks with you.
I was gonna say we saw, or later in the film too, you see a creature that's got its head splitting in two, eating somebody. So I guess you get to see like what it was going to look like. It's kind of like foreshadowing what would happen. What is it called? What were the writing errors or kind of like the problems with the script you saw? Just as far or problems with the action of the characters. Because I think we were both talking about how there's some situations that were kind of contrived as far as
whenever people split up, it's like, no, don't split up, or they'll split up in twos, and that's the worst one. It's like you'd always if someone is a mimic, then it's always you would want to split up in threes.
Yeah,
stuff like
towards
that.
the end you couldn't because everybody was dead, but towards the beginning you could have that. Yeah, but the thing is, the movie has to happen. It's this because they did have a chance, I guess, to fly away in the helicopter, but we were talking about how that was explained later on. And what am I saying here? So like I can attach it to the video. So I kind of wanted to just get your take on, is the movie, is it worth watching today, do you think, if people are interested in horror?
I don't know. I'm not a horror or thriller fan per se, but I'm also not a movie fan per se. But I still enjoyed the movie because I like the effects aren't as shocking anymore. I think because they don't look quite real. I mean, it's surreal in that way, and I don't know. It's hard to say if Carpenter like knew it was surreal or if he was trying to go towards that like weird thing. Like the alien sounds were a little. They were like very synthetic and interesting that way, but yeah. So I'm not sure if it was meant to really be a horror or if it was meant to be like a thoughtful movie. It's hard to say because a good director is gonna like be able to tell that it's like, oh, this doesn't look real.
Yeah, that jump scare got me, at least with the the blood when they were testing the blood. But besides that, I don't think there was a scene that got me with a jump scare.
Yeah, and I don't know if jump scares really like count as horror in that way, you know, because it's more just like a surprise. Like you can get jump scared by a dog, like a golden retriever puppy can come and jump scare you. You know what I mean? They're like,
speaking of that, I was going to mention one of the things I really liked was the whenever the dog, like before we even knew that the dog was the alien, when it was kind of just chilling and like the ominous music would come on when it's staring at people, because I thought that they like, that was like honestly more freaky than sometimes whenever we saw the whole entire creature, you know?
Yeah, I think it's weird because we watched the movie knowing what was going on, but if you watch it the first time, you wouldn't. But that dog really sold because it was so stoic as a dog, you know.
And I wonder how they trained it. Like, honestly, that might have been a hard or difficult thing during the production because it was completely still. It's not like it was moving at all. Whenever it stopped to stare at people, it was just, it's like
especially
it was
a husky.
Yeah.
How do you get a husky?
How do you get a husky to do that? Well, like I know
never
that
barked.
There's bears that are actually Hollywood bears, so they train them to basically chase people, but not really chase people.
Yeah.
So what they show in film normally isn't actually a brown bear or black bear being angry. It's just one bumbling around. Because if you were to get a real bear rampaging, somebody would die. So it's not that extreme, but with like with the wolf, it's probably a trained. I guess it was a trained animal.
Yeah, that I think that was one of the better like foreshadowing that they chose, was just like how strange the dog felt. And then when the trainer came in, he was also acting strange. You know what I mean? Even though, and like you said earlier, it was like a red herring.
I was gonna say the dog too. Like I like how they had the classic, you know, dogs start to bark whenever something's wrong, right? So you have that scene where the trainer leaves the room, and then all the dogs start barking at the one dog who they know is not. And you know, it's like sometimes animals have like a sixth sense, it seems like, and so that was cool because, well, we saw it from their perspective, and so I was gonna say I think this film holds up enough to where it'd be a good watch for people. I think it's interesting, like the different decisions they made. I like practical effects, so I don't necessarily like, even though CGI may look more realistic, it's like if I had to choose between, you know, kind of a mannequin blowing up and looking a little bit, you know, I guess not as real, I would choose that over seeing Princess Leia, you know, digitized, you know, post Carrie Fisher death. You know what I mean?
To be honest, I don't know how much of that is like CGI versus practical effect, and how much of that is the relationship of changing between a studio and the director and the artist, you know? Because is it very famous right now that like CGI employees are like super overworked and they're like forced to work 100-hour weeks for crunch time. Like they say that it's just constant grind. And
I'm
like,
curious what the budget would have been for this film, though. You know what I mean? Speaking about the difference. Yeah.
Well, yeah. Well, all of that's changed so much too, because they have to like have a guarantee hit to like greenlight a movie. Because I think it was like a Matt Damon or somebody in an interview, and like everybody talked about it after. But it was like there's no DVD sales anymore, so like if it doesn't make money in theaters, it doesn't make money.
That's an interesting question too. Like, who do you think this was made for? Who do you think the target audience was? Like, whenever they were in the, you know, because they make films with a target audience in mind whenever they're first releasing a film. Do you think this was more for horror fans, or?
I don't know. And it's hard to say too, though, because that's changed a lot, because movies have become a huge industry, you know? Like after Avatar, like the movie industry changed, because now it's like, oh, there's like a potential of $1 billion film. You know what I mean? And I think that once it got monetized in that way, that's why you have like less artistic films. It's like the Marvel movies, you know, aren't like, they're not like groundbreaking in a way, other than maybe having like as many like A-list actors or celebrities.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Other than that, they're not like crazy groundbreaking in the same way. And so I wonder how much of this was a passion project and how much of it was like actually designed
I have a feeling that John Carpenter actually like really enjoyed working on the film. You can feel it in the film, you know, everything had a reason, you know, everything like the dog, you know, creepily walking around, that's to foreshadow, you know, the fact that it's going to be what's called trouble down the line. The what is called, whatever it's not the Swedish guys.
Oh, Norwegian guys.
Norwegian guys, yeah. When the Norwegians basically, are freaking out about the dog and nobody knows why, it's, meant to signal to the person watching, like, there's something weird here. Like, I couldn't imagine watching this movie for the first time in a theater, not knowing anything about it, because I knew that the dog was an alien. But, like, if you didn't know that, then that scene would have been very...
like, what's going on here?
Yeah, like, what's up with this?
When did you really, like, know that this is a good movie? Like, everybody talks about this movie, but when, like, while you're watching, it's like, oh yeah, this is a good movie.
I think it was whenever the dog was in the kennel, that scene. Whenever it started, like, transforming and, like, spraying the other dogs and, like, trying to escape. Like, I just think that the movie's often praised for practical effects, and that was the first, like, jaw-dropping kind of like, oh, okay, that's why people, like, praise the movie for that.
Yeah.
But the plot's not super complicated too. If you really think about it, it's more just there's an alien, it's loose, it can mimic people, but then at the same time, like, it still held my interest, which is saying a lot, because I feel like films sometimes try to, have so many elements in their plot that they're not focused. But this film feels very focused.
Yeah, I think all plots can be simplified really quickly, though. And so you can, like, bring it down to, like, 3 or 4 parts, and that's about it. But I think this was, like, a good story because it had so little fat on it. Like, there never felt like a scene that was like, this scene is not necessary. Like, everything felt like...
Well, especially because you as an audience member are suspicious of everybody to a certain degree. And so you're not, what is it called? So even when you think you know the direction it's going, you don't. So it's been a while since I've seen a movie where it's like, I didn't know what direction it would go or what would happen next. Because with superhero movies, like, I was watching this video, and this isn't to criticize superhero movies, but a guy was talking about how he could predict the next line that was going to be said in the trailer.
Yeah.
And it was just, like, super jarring. And I think there's a lot of fatigue with that, just like there was fatigue with Western movies back in the day, because superhero films have become so...
guaranteed.
Yeah, guaranteed that they don't try experimental things anymore, generally speaking. So it's nice because this was made in a time whenever movies without a big budget could still be hits,
Yeah. Yeah.
And I would say, like, just
hold the mic closer. Sorry.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. There's just a lot of room noise.
Okay. Yeah, I'd say I'd agree with you. I think the film holds up. I think horror, especially horror fans, would, enjoy going back and watching it. I think a general audience, it'd be harder to get people to watch it just because they're used to, like, CGI. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know how they'd respond to practical effects.
I think it was fun. I'm not a horror fan, like, at all.
Oh, okay.
Like, and I really enjoyed the movie. I think it's a good story. I mean, yeah.
And what about the ending? Did you like the ending?
Yeah.
I was left kind of, like, open to interpretation.
Because you can come at it at 2 angles. It's like, well, it's weird that McCarty laughed. Or is it McCarty?
Yeah, McCarty.
Yeah, McCarty. It's weird that McCarty laughed, after he gave him it. So it's like, is that the kerosene? That's what everybody says. But it's also like, if that was the alien, like, and he's the one with the flamethrower and the weapon. Like, right, Childs had the flamethrower on his back.
Yeah.
And like, could do whatever. He had, like, all the power in that situation. And, like, McCarty had nothing on him. So it's like, if it's an alien and you're left alone with him, McCarty has nothing on him to defend himself. It's like, why wouldn't the alien, like, immediately attack,
Yeah.
So then it's weird.
It's kind of like, I remember the only other time I can remember, like, having that feeling is, like, the ending of Inception, whenever they roll the,
and
they spin the thing and they cut it to see if it's reality or not. Yeah. So I like that because I feel like too many movies, well, okay, here's the thing. It's not open-ended, but it's not setting up a sequel, because that's what, movies do now. They'll have the scene where it's open-ended, but then at the end of the film, it's like, oh, so-and-so will return for next film. And it's like,
yeah.
So it's like nice to have a movie that just ends on a, its own terms.
Yeah. They, like, the Doctor Strange movie was like that. It didn't feel like it was setting up for a sequel, but it was also like, well, I guess that's an ambiguous ending, but it's like a stupid ambiguous ending because his, like, third eye opens up.
Yeah.
It's like not a lot of significance there.
And then another person shows up to take him on another mission. It's like,
it's what the post credits, like, completely overwritten, like, any tension that built up.
Yeah. And it's kind of it does a disservice to the films because it's not, because it's not respecting the story that's already been told, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because it's like, oh, okay, we're gonna have more product here for you to consume. Disregard everything you just saw because everything's back to, you know, where it was at the start. Whereas this movie, it clearly ends in a much different place than it began.
I think because this movie's written for adults. You know what I mean? I think not just like the R rating, but I think that the teen market wasn't as big as it is now. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. It was rated R.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, because well, I think they got the one F-bomb in.
I think they had a couple.
There was a couple F-bombs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
I was too busy about watching people get eaten.
It was pretty gory. I think it would be hard to get. Who knows? Was PG-13?
It's just weird. 80s? It is weird with some of the old films because they seem like they'd be rated R, but they're not. They're PG-13.
Yeah, well, PG-13 came out with
Jaws.
No, not with Jaws. With the Indiana Jones movie, the second one.
Oh, Temple of Doom.
Yeah, that was when they started PG-13 ratings after that movie.
Okay, because it's not quite PG.
Yeah, and they're like, we need to figure this out. Yeah,
yeah. So you got to add that in there.
Mm-hmm.
I guess we talked about earlier that the characters had like different quirks or like they seemed like they weren't fully fleshed out characters, but I also like how or enjoyed the fact that it didn't have to give a deep backstory to all the characters. It you know, it told you enough, and then like the minimalist design of the film I enjoy.
Yeah.
Because, you know, you don't have to know a million things about all these characters. You know their quirks, you know if they would be more suspicious, you know.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of things that were subtle, and it was like a little like some actions were strange, but not in a like where would you do that? But more as like, I wonder what the significance behind that is, because none of it felt thoughtless.
The only person that you know more about their character, I guess, is McCarty, but it didn't even take him like divulging his backstory or why he was there or anything else like that. It's just because the film tended to focus on him more than the rest.
Yeah, I think it's smart to center around a protagonist. So, but like even him on the tape machine when he like recording the thing, he's like nobody trusts anyone anymore. But then he like went back and re-recorded over that for some reason, and then with just like an outro of the.
How do you like that? I figured out that that's the thing with older films too. They fade to black a whole lot more for transitions.
Yeah, that happened when the what's his name, the kitchen guy, the dog came in, and then it showed that his shadow, like, and I think he turned around after the dog came in, and it like faded to black in the next one. So you like assume that he got infected or like something because the
but they actually played them up to be like good transitions. You know what I mean? It's like there's a lot of thought put into where they are. So
I see what you mean. Yeah, I think I just think that specific one was more really like building the tension of who and who is not infected. You know, because you kind of get the idea that something's not right. And then that's when you get to, there's like a humanoid body or corpse, I mean, you know, and then you like put it together. Then you're thinking back to that scene.
I gotta be honest, I was a little bit grossed out when they were doing the dissection or autopsy. Yeah. Like just because he's pulling organs out of like this creature. But like I like a lot of zombie films and such, so I'm used to gore. But it's weird because when you go behind the scenes, a lot of times it's like barbecue sauce or and it's like fully cooked meat. And it's just like, but it really, the blood looked a little bit like lighter. Actually, fun fact, in one of the Star Trek films, there was a Klingon that died and there's blood floating in space. But in order to maintain the PG or rating, they had to change the color of the blood to purple.
Yeah.
And whenever I heard about that, it was just like, well,
it's weird. That's
thing. Weird that's like a, you know, back in the day, that's the type of stuff they had to deal with. Now,
I think that's
still the case. Yeah. So luckily this wasn't PG-13, so we didn't have the creatures just filling out purple blood. I had the thing is too, like I had fun with this film. I think it was great. I would recommend people go see it, or not go see it, but see it online if they are interested in horror, or in, you know, you're speaking from your perspective. You think that just general audiences might enjoy it as well.
I think it's an enjoyable film.
So yeah, check it out. You guys should watch.